Hi all, I'm Otaku Lucifer, and this is Blurred Culture. On today's Blurred Culture, I'm going to be doing something a little different. I know I haven't been on or haven't made any videos in a little bit, but I'm going to be doing something different. I have a mutual follower on TikTok by the name of Fatal Pros LLC, and if you haven't checked him out already, go to TikTok and check him out. This guy has some really great analysis of just contemporary affairs, the state of culture, and just things going on in the world right now. He did an analysis of Doctor Strange 2, the Multiverse of Madness, that I felt or I feel is really interesting. I wanted to kind of like throw in my 2 cents and let you guys know how I feel about it. So let's get to it. Let's check it out, and let's do this analysis and see how it goes. All right.
So if you watched the Multiverse of Madness and you didn't catch that the movie was really about the battle over the soul of America, you may want to watch this movie again. Spoiler alert, I will be revealing this movie's dirty secrets. So contrary to what the title suggests, the central character in this movie is not Doctor Strange. The central character in the Multiverse of Madness is America.
So for those of you who don't know, America Chavez is a gay character from the Marvel Universe. She's a Latina from another dimension where both her parents were women. America Chavez is a great character. She has the ability to literally jump through dimensions and realities, and she can focus her energy into a punch that's in the shape of a star. What he's saying is that if you ever saw Multiverse of Madness, which was a brilliant film in my opinion, he's saying that the story has less to do with Doctor Strange and more to do with America Chavez, which I believe is 1000% correct. That story is about America Chavez. Let's get back to it.
Who, if you pay attention, is having a bit of an identity crisis, right? Because her parents have passed away and she's slipping in and out of different realities as she is pursued by one monstrous disaster after the next. But these threats are not random. And as the narrative unfolds, we find America betwixt two opposing parties. On the one hand, you have the more conservative Scarlet Witch, who really doesn't care who she hurts as long as she can preserve the purity of the idea of her children, who oddly enough are a figment of her imagination, but yet and still she is willing to unalive America if it means she can maintain any vestiges of the middle-class utopia she created for herself in WandaVision, which is all an elaborate trauma response, but let's not get sidetracked by critical race theory.
So I find this part really interesting, right? The character America is a symbol of the United States of America, who's basically being chased around and by Wanda as the Scarlet Witch, and Wanda represents white America, who is willing to destroy America Chavez, who represents the United States of America. And I think it's brilliant to give that type of analysis, right? Because literally, right, that's what's happening in this country right now, right? You have a good segment of the far right who have no problem destroying the future of America to maintain this false representation that they created of what America is, right? America Chavez is literally a metaphor for the United States of America, right? She's this allegorical character for the United States of America, and what he's saying with his rant is that Wanda, the Scarlet Witch, in WandaVision, through her trauma, right? She was basically dealing with cognitive dissonance, right? Where Vision died and she had to resurrect him because she couldn't accept his passing. And to me, that's indicative of the United States of America realizing that their vision of the United States of America is dying, and the current people in politics right now is doing everything they can to resurrect this false vision, this false ideal of what America was, right? And what America is, right? And this vision is tell people, oh, America is highly inclusive and it's filled with equality for everyone, right? That's what we present. But the reality is it is not equal for everyone. America is not for everyone. It was made for a certain class of people, and in this case, white people, right? And even more, let's take it even further, for rich white people, right? And a lot of white people in power are more concerned about maintaining that disposition, right? Maintaining the disposition of white America. That was always a falsehood, right? This clean version of America that they presented to the world has always been a fallacy. It's always been a lie, because America, the United States of America, is built on the backs of BIPOCs. It's built on the backs of mainly quote-unquote black people, which are of African and Native Indigenous descent, then also of just the Native Indigenous people of the mainland United States. So when I say black people, I mean people who are of Native Indigenous descent from the Caribbean, right? Because most people who are considered quote-unquote black have Native Indigenous blood that's from the Caribbean, as well as African blood from African slaves that were brought over after the native slaves from the Caribbean were kept revolting and fighting back. But the point I'm trying to make here is that his analysis of this is crystal clear, right? Wanda is trying to maintain the falsehood, the false reality that she created for herself. And she can't look past that reality, because in her mind, right, that reality that she created, that falsehood that she created, is everything, right? It's who she is. It's her whole identity. And she can't let go of it. And that's what's happening to the United States of America. And just like how Wanda is attacking America Chavez to maintain her false identity, that's what the government officials and a lot of white people in power are doing to everyone else, right? In the United States, they're basically trying to destroy them to maintain their falsehood of this false identity that they have for this country. Let's keep going.
So we learn that the greatest threat to America is not these foreign monsters, but the manipulations of Scarlet Witch herself, who literally arrives on a red wave with the goal of, get this, stealing her children from another version of herself. On the other hand, you have the more liberal Doctor Strange, who you would think would be the hero, but is he really? Because in the opening scene, he would unalive America too, because America doesn't know how to use her powers yet. And because of her ignorance, or is it because of his arrogance, he too would unalive America out of some false sense of moral necessity. And let us not forget that Doctor Strange is also suffering from a broken heart and also has a darker side.
This part here is really relevant just off of the fact that I saw this particular analysis as the Republicans and Democrats. For those of you out there who don't know, we live in a mostly two-party system in the United States of America, either being the Republicans, which are on the right, and the Democrats, which are supposedly on the left. The problem being is that many times as constituents, not even as colored people or people of color in this country, but just regular constituents, we really don't always understand which party is really for our interests. Case in point, right now, we have the Roe v. Wade thing going on, where now we live in a post-Roe v. Wade era, where Roe v. Wade just was overturned last month. For the most part, we were told that this was going to happen before former President Trump was nominated. He literally said in his debate with Hillary Clinton in 2016, I believe, that he would overturn Roe v. Wade, and that's exactly what he did. He said that he would appoint judges to overturn it. He appointed 3 judges to overturn Roe v. Wade, and those judges, although they lied during their confirmations, all turned around. They all said that they would protect Roe v. Wade, but then they later all turned around and voted against Roe v. Wade. Me personally, I don't necessarily think that Roe v. Wade is the main issue. I don't think the autonomy of women's rights or women's rights to their body is the issue. I believe that there's a deeper issue going on, besides Roe v. Wade. I think it's more about an attack on the 14th Amendment. For those of you that don't know, the 14th Amendment is the amendment that literally gave people of color the rights as citizens in the United States. The only thing is they never specified people of color. It kind of said all citizens, I believe. For those of you who want to know more about the 14th Amendment, I suggest that you watch a docuseries on Netflix called Amend. The show explains and goes into further detail the 14th Amendment and our rights as citizens and a lot of the laws that were attached to the 14th Amendment, like Roe v. Wade and Brown versus the Board of Ed, all of those laws. And it kind of lays out everything. It kind of lays out the battle plan of using the 14th Amendment to undergird all of these laws, these massively progressive laws. Like I said, I don't think Roe v. Wade is the only thing. They're trying to attack that law, as well as Board versus the Board of Ed, Loving versus the Board of Virginia, which is interracial marriage, which is a concern for a person like me because my wife is white. So, there's a lot of things that it seems like they're trying to reverse. But let's get back to it, to the video and this gentleman's analysis.
If you saw the What If series, we know where that can lead. So here's what the movie boils down to. You have two opposing parties who are supposed to be on the same side, neither fully having America's best interests at heart, and both at certain points wanting to take America's power for themselves, for whatever reason. I just also want to point out that America is a woman of color, and is moved around like a pawn in this mystical game of chess between two white folks, but how...
The other thing, that's a great point. The other thing I wanted to mention, about the Republicans and the Democrats was the fact that for a long time, right, you will have pundits on both sides speaking. On one side you have people like Rachel Maddow talking for the Democratic and the left, and or the Democrats on the left, and then on the other side you have people like Tucker Carlson speaking for the Republicans on the right. And a lot of times it doesn't seem that either side is really concerned with the actual problems of the people. The reason why I bring that up is that Roe versus Wade would not have been overturned had the laws been codified. Right now, we have a Democratic dominant government, right? We have a Democratic president in Joe Biden. We have a Democratic Congress led by Nancy Pelosi, and we have a Democratic Senate majority. And they could have codified Roe versus Wade if they wanted to. Codified just basically means making it into law, bringing it more into law so the law stands on its own without the need of undergirding it with the 14th Amendment. But they didn't codify it. Obama had the chance to codify, or the Obama administration had the chance to codify Roe v. Wade and Loving and all these other laws in 2000, in his last term as president, or actually during his first term as president. He could have codified laws like Roe v. Wade during his first 2 years before the midterms, I believe in 2010, when everything switched and we had a Republican dominated Senate and Congress. But it is what it is. So I personally believe that if the Democrats wanted to really get around these things, these problems with the Republicans, they could have codified these laws a long time ago. But that's just my opinion. But let's get back to it, because right now, back to the analysis, right? To me, it seems like America is being tugged, and it's like a tug of war for America between the Republicans and the Democrats. Neither side really caring enough about the American people to actually make significant changes, significant progressive changes. Again, just my opinion, but back to it.
How does this conflict resolve itself? Well, Doctor Strange does 3 major feats at the end of the movie, which completes his character arc. 1. He confronts the darker elements of himself and heals the wounds of his own heart. 2. he reanimates the body of his misguided intentions and fulfills his promise to protect America. And most importantly, 3. He finally learns to respect America's bodily autonomy, fully commits to her progress and development, and allows her to lead the way. And the Scarlet Witch, when confronted by how far she strayed from her moral...
Let's talk about this part right here, where he's talking about Doctor Strange, who represents the left. Doctor Strange, in my book, could either represent the left or the right, just like the Scarlet Witch could represent the left or the right. But for the sake of this discussion, let's just say that Doctor Strange represents the left, right? Doctor Strange has, like he said in his analysis, his own dark side that he had to confront. Just like with the Democrats having its own dark side, where for the longest time, Democrats historically were against progress. Historically, organizations like the Ku Klux Klan, like the KKK, came out of Southern Democratic parties. And now they're trying to be the party of the people. And, you know, to some extent, they have become the party in large part on a federal level for the people. Does that mean all Democrats nationwide are for the people? No, because you have, you know, a lot of people don't understand how government works. A lot of people think that, you know, it's just the people in Washington who control everything, and that the president is the head of everything, and he should do and fix everything. When the reality is, the president has 3 jobs. He's a figurehead. He can say yes or no to policies that come across his table through veto or not veto, or signing a bill right into law, or he and his last job is that he has the right to executive orders, which is another part of part 2, and then lastly, go to war, right? He is the commander-in-chief, and certain presidents have been known to go to war without the permission of Congress, right? So as commander-in-chief, he's the leader of our military. That is the president's 3 jobs. That is it. You know, some people can also say that he's, you know, under figurehead, you know, he is like the mouthpiece for the country, but that's it. The people who actually facilitate laws or create laws is Congress. You know, you can't get laws passed or get laws made without Congress presenting them as bills and then okaying it through the House and then the Senate, or vice versa. The Senate may present something to the House and the House might pass it, then the Senate might pass it. But, you know, we have so many people, like I said earlier, playing tug of war. The same way America Chavez was played, they're playing tug of war between Doctor Strange and the Scarlet Witch. So Doctor Strange had to come to terms to his evil side, his dark side. You know, or just like the government has to come to terms with its dark side, right? The Democrats have to come to terms with their dark side and their legacy, right? Their dark legacy that they have. But on the other hand, and we're going to get into that now with the analysis of the Scarlet Witch and the right.
Encompassed by her own children, regains her sense of self, closes the book that's been kind of messing with her mind, and causes the towers of supremacy to crumble down in on itself. And that's the story of how America was saved, folks. Excelsior.
And he ended it with an analysis, a brief analysis of Scarlet Witch, who, in this case, she would represent the right. And basically, the Scarlet Witch in the film had to realize through the eyes of her own children that she had no access to on this plane of reality, but her doppelganger, her other self in another reality, had these children, and those children were her reality. Scarlet Witch as the metaphor for the right wing. The right wing needs to understand that it has been eating its own children, right? The right wing of America is white conservatives who believe that America, in a large part, is made for Americans. But Americans do not include people who look like me, people who are native, indigenous to this country, and people who are Asian, and other BIPOCs, right? They don't believe that we should have full rights. That's where the 3/5 of a man nonsense came in, right? It was through technically Democrats at the time, but Republicans, modern day Republicans, have picked up that mantle and said, yes, they were right. We should do this, right? A lot of people talk about the Southern Switch and how the Southern Switch never happened, and You know, if you go to certain sites and certain fake universities, let's say the Southern Switch in the 1960s and 1950s was fake. They're absolutely right. It didn't happen in the 1950s or 60s, but where it did happen was in the 1850s and 60s during Reconstruction. And if Wanda, aka the Scarlet Witch, is a representative of what the right wing is, the right wing needs to notice that it's been eating its children. We cannot be Americans and say that only one segment of America is valuable. We cannot be Americans and say that only one people of America are valuable, right? White people are not the only Americans in this country, and white people are no longer the majority of people in this country, even though they'd like us to think that, right? We have to understand that we can't stay segmented, right? Wanda had a fractured mind, right? Her mind was fractured because of her loss, right? Because of her internal trauma, her turmoil. And what she was doing to America Chavez in the film was basically taking out her rage of not being able to fulfill what she felt was her destiny, which was to raise her children the way she wanted to, right? Even though the concept of her children was a false reality for her, there was another version of her out there where it was a real reality, and she wanted that life for herself, and she was willing to destroy America to do it. Just like I feel many Republicans are willing to destroy America to fulfill this false ideal that never really existed. And it wasn't until the Scarlet Witch confronted her other self, who was the actual mother to these children, to the future, right, that she was able to admit her wrongdoing. She was able to say to herself, what I've been doing has not been for the sake of the children I love, which is the future, right? But it's been for my own sake, for my own personal needs. I haven't been saving my children. I've been on a path of their destruction, and I've been taking out that anger on America. Just food for thought, just my own personal thoughts based on this guy's brilliant analysis of Doctor Strange 2, The Multiverse of Madness. If you like this content and what I had to say, please leave a comment below. Let me know what you think. Hit that like button and subscribe. It's going to really help me out, and it's going to really help the algorithm. But until next time, stay blessed, stay safe, and stay loving.